I'm 20 some hours into Octopath Traveler 2, so right off the bat I need to say this is not a review of the game, but I am hooked on Octopath, and not only that, but I find myself thinking about aspects of the game frequently when I'm not playing it. Anytime a video game manages to do that, I sit up and take notice. So today I want to talk about some aspects of Octopath Traveler 2 that I find delightful and discuss how this simple game is so very satisfying. That simplicity that I just mentioned is one of the game's greatest strengths. Anyone who has played a decent amount of RPGs will have run across some that are just bonkers levels of complexity. Perhaps there's a mistaken belief on the part of the developers that complexity is the same thing as depth. If so, Octopath is the perfect rebuttal to that sentiment. The game's systems are only as complex as they absolutely need to be. It's as if the developers took a standard JRPG and trimmed every ounce of fat off of it. This comes through in every aspect of Octopath. The art style, of course, but also in the battle systems, the storylines for individual characters, equipment progression, skill acquisition, and even map design. Individual areas are exactly as expansive as they need to be without being a sprawling mess. The maps find that perfect balance between being a straight hallway and being a chaotic open world. This isn't to say that Octopath is overly simplified, but the game does an excellent job of introducing complexity slowly. Characters learn skills slowly enough that the player does not become overwhelmed by a long list of potential moves. Difficulty ramps up at the same pace as the player's ability to become familiar with combat systems. And each area is clearly marked to indicate how strong the enemies there actually are. Even character stories start in a relatively straightforward manner and only grow in complexity with later entries. Octopath Traveler 2 does an incredible job of cutting away all the fluff and needless complexity that seems to clog up many otherwise great JRPGs, allowing the player to focus on what really matters, like I love when video games have a sense of wonder about them. This is one of those hard to define terms that nonetheless are very important. If a game is infused with wonder, that sense of possibility encourages the player to explore every corner, to read through the lore scattered about the world, and perhaps most importantly, to truly feel as if they are going on a grand adventure with these characters. It's the same feeling as a good book that you just can't put down. You just have to see what happens in the next chapter. Octopath has wonder by the truckload. As the player explores towns and countrysides, following threads of the main quests, they'll come across threads of other quests, side missions, and optional areas, hints of the adventures that lay ahead. As you find more and more of these optional threads, the scope of the game begins to feel larger and larger. The world feels more expansive and full of possibilities, a classic hallmark of that sense of wonder that I find so satisfying. The main quest chapters work hand in hand with the optional content, too. Each character's next story thread is displayed on the world map, along with a recommended level. And those levels are all different, often widely so. Hikari's Chapter 2 level recommendation is 15, while Oswald's is 18. What this means is that there's almost always some main story content somewhere that is accessible to your party. And since the main story content is always pushing you to new areas or to revisit old ones, this means that you're always uncovering those little snippets that hint at the larger world. And watching blank areas of the map get filled in just heightens that sense of excitement. Even the aesthetics of the game play into this. The character sprites are very detailed, sure, but they're necessarily small. Because the characters are shown so small, though, more of the area around them can be shown. It just makes the world feel that much bigger. Playing Octopath and exploring the environments, I get the same sense that I get playing the Link's Awakening remake. That this world is much bigger than the sum of its parts, and that just makes me want to get lost in these environments. Speaking of the environments, the third and final component that has me hooked on Octopath is this game is gorgeous. There's no other way to say it. Early in the game, I began taking screenshots every time an environment, a scene, or just anything struck me as particularly beautiful. You'd think that would be hard for any one screen to stand out, since it seems like every aspect of this game is so gorgeous. And yet I found myself taking so many screenshots. The game makes incredible use of lighting. That, I think, is the elusive element that I couldn't at first identify why I found these scenes and environments so beautiful. Shafts of golden sunlight fall across the landscape, shadows of clouds scuttle across the ground. At night, the lights in windows glow beautifully. I don't think I've ever seen a video game create such understated beauty just out of its lighting. And the developers could have just made day and night scenes for each area and just been fine with that, but they also made twilight scenes. The amount of love that was poured into this game is just incredible. And it's not just the HD environment that's beautiful. The 2D sprite work is well done, character portraits reflect each character's personality, and even the music is on point. I don't think it's an understatement to say that the visual aesthetic of this game is a huge factor in why I love it so much. I'd still play it if it weren't quite so pretty, but it's nice to know that the next 80 or so hours that I put into this game will be filled with vistas of beauty. Thanks for watching. I'm X0. I make videos about whatever has caught my interest. If you'd like to see more videos like this one where I overthink things, consider liking and subscribing. If you'd like to see fewer videos where I overthink things, leave a comment telling me, it's not that deep, bro. Either way, I'll see you next time.